So, what happens in terms of changes in Delhi during Sultanate period. These changes can be located in several areas. So, in terms of settlement, in terms of population, and also changes in landscapes. And we will also come to know about new developments. That means there were two kind of places. One was for the people, and the other was for the ruling class. So as far as the ruling class habitat is concerned, we would be paying attention to their requirement. For example, making of forts, making of walls, and especially walls meant to enclose their people, within which they would all reside and stay protected from the hazard of the invaders. So this is one thing as far as the political class is concerned. So their habitat is way different from the people's habitat, who would also not be very far away from this political side. So what we notice during this period is that there is brisk development. So it's like a place which was more or less lying dormant. Mm. And the pace of growth was very sluggish, although very consistent, is now experiencing noticeable spurt in the growth. So now so many settlements are cropping up, and there is noticeable and perceptible commotion going on within Delhi. So there is a great degree of movement which had now become noticeable. So as far as the beginning of Sultanate period is concerned, during Qutbuddin Aibak, nothing major happened. Because what happened during Qutbuddin Aibak's period is that he initially, having taken over Delhi after defeating Prithviraj Chauhan, mm, after Prithviraj Chauhan had been defeated, when Delhi had fallen into the hands of people from the Central Asia who were of Islamic faith. So these new crop of Islamic followers who happened to be in Delhi, instead of starting everything afresh, they more or less depended upon the pre-existing materials. So in my previous class also I had told you that they very often reused either materials which they had demolished. For example, the pre-existing forts, pre-existing temples, or pre-existing any kind of structures, or those structures which had actually which had undergone the phase of wear and tear and had become ruined. So they tended to use those materials. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
So for first, just a minute. Ankur, you have something to say?
No, sir.
Okay, okay. So keep yourself muted unless it is necessary, because it is giving some feedback. Anyway, so for initial phase, when Islam came in India, especially in this region, uh, most of the structures which we notice, these were uh, these were built from the material which were very much Indian, and initially structures. we come across, these are structures which are not of scale and complexity which we start noticing during later period. So, I mean, any structure, be it Qutub Minar or that Jami Masjid, which is a Quwwat ul Islam, masjid, be that structure Qutub Minar or other small few few other small places. Similarly, in Rajasthan, in place like Ajmer, where Dhai Din Ka Jhopda, if you have heard, that was being built. So, all most of these structures which I am enumerating, these were not very complex. Huh? In their initial form, in their initial form, they were not very complex, and you do not have several examples of such structures because this was still in its initial phase. It was still in making. So Islam was still preoccupied with the idea of spreading. Uh, so they were still not settled. They were still moving on to all the places wherever they could have actually gone to, and this is the phase where they were all in. So once they had reached most of these places, then the deeper root started taking place, which becomes noticeable following Kutubuddin Aibak period, especially not even during Iltutmish times. After Iltutmish times, you will notice that in Delhi, you have several places which have got their names, and these names are very much impact of the Islamic world. That is the names. So any name you talk about, you will come across several names which are Persianized names. Hello, am I making sense? Are you all following?
Yes.
हाँ
Yes, sir.
हाँ, मैं
Yes, sir.
ये बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि शुरुआती दौर में जब इस्लाम दिल्ली में आता है या दिल्ली की तरह और अलग अलग जगह जाता है। जस्ट मिनट। तो क्या होता है कि ये वो दौर है जो इस्लाम अभी फैलने के दौर में है। हाँ, उसका एक फैलाव हो रहा है। तो उसमें बहुत ही छिटपुट ठहराव है। मतलब अपने शुरुआती दौर में वो इस तरह के स्थापत्य कला को नहीं स्थापित कर पाता है जो कि बहुत ही दर्शनीय हो या बहुत ही गौरतलब हो। तो अपने शुरुआती दौर में जो भी हमको उनके एग्जाम्पल्स मिलते हैं, जो उनके नमूने मिलते हैं, स्थापत्य कला के हों और चाहे उनके बसिंदे के हों, नेबरहुड के जो नए नए नेबरहुड बन रहे थे, वो बहुत ही बुनियादी किस्म के हैं। बहुत ही बुनियादी किस्म के हैं। उसमें आपको उतनी जटिलता नज़र नहीं आएगी। बाद में जब इस्लाम फैल चुका होता है और जब वो वहाँ पे सेटल हो जाता है, तब हमको ढेर सारे बदलाव नज़र आते हैं। तो वो बदलाव आपको जो भी स्ट्रक्चर है, जो भी संरचना है, जो भी स्थापत्य कला की नमूने हैं, उसको जब आप बारीकी से देखेंगे तब लगेगा कि हाँ, तो वो नतीजा है उनके सेटल होने का। ठीक है। So, as far as Qutbuddin Aibak is concerned, we get to know about few structures which cropped up across Delhi. So, Qutub Minar happened to be one such structure, and right beside there, Jami Masjid. It's like a Quwwatul Islam, the other name, Quwwatul Islam. I had explained you the meaning of the Quwwatul Islam. So, these names actually suggest that their concern at this moment was to transform Dar al Harb into Dar al Aslam. That means they were moving into new places which they looked upon as a Dar al Harb. That means places which were non-Islamic. Is it clear to everyone?
Sir, excuse me, sir.
हाँ हाँ.
As you are saying that about the Jami Masjid, second name को तीन कुछ ऐसा करके, what is
Kuwwat
that?
Kuwwat ul Islam.
Okay, sir.
That is actually see, as far as Delhi is concerned, I mean that is the first Islamic symbol and first Islamic signature we actually begin with, because nowhere else they established anything else. So that is something we notice for the Islamic period, something to begin with. So that was first thing to have come into Delhi as a result of the Islamic landing. And so the Quwwatul Islam, the very meaning of Quwwatul Islam is the power of Islam. So when they came actually, so it was like, when you come, you do not remain concerned about consolidation. In the first place, you just drop the trail and you move on. So this is, how these people were doing. So as soon as they landed upon here, they started, occupying places and started creating space which would look familiar to them, because Dar al Islam, non-Islamic places, uh, appeared very unfamiliar to them. So there, in the first phase, they just wanted to drop the signatures. So Quwwatul Islam, Qutub Minar, ढाई दिन का झोपड़ा, that is located in Ajmer, and then similar other basic structures, not very complex structures, were established in initial phase of the Islam. So it was like just dropping. So the concern was not to ensure a strong foundation. The concern was not to render the structure complex. The concern was to just land and leave the landmark in its initial phase. So these structures which I'm talking about, these are actually examples of the initial landmarks, so which were just dropped. Uh, and so that is why for initial phases, these all most of these structures, these are very simple. If you compare all these structures with the subsequent phase structures, you will find that these are very simple, and materials which have been used and the design which we notice, or any aesthetic element which is part of these structures, there is a lot of Indian element in it. So that is why when we call Indo-Islamic structure, uh, most of the structures which cropped up during this time can be placed under Islam, Indo-Islamic category. Uh, Although subsequent structures which came, in the course of time, though those structures were also Indo-Islamic, but in initial Indo-Islamic examples, you have noticeable Indian elements. So what is very important for all of us to notice that, as I told you, their purpose was to transform Dar ul Harb into Dar ul Islam. So one way it took place was by process of Islamization, Islamization of spaces which they occupied. So they were trying to create their religious space like mosque, and they were trying to create structures which would be noticeable, from far away. So they just wanted to ensure the visibility of their presence. So how was this possible structurally? So they wanted to create a structure. So Qutub Minar actually was one such structure which became noticeable from far off places because of its height. Because of its height, although it was not of same height which we notice now. In its initial form, it was shorter. Later on, new rulers came and they went on to add new blocks. on the top of it, giving it a new height. However, in its initial phase too, it was tall enough because of that tall, nature. It was visible. So the politics of visual also became a characteristic feature of spatial development under Islamic rule. मैं ये बताने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि जब इस्लाम दार उल हर्ब पे आता है, जब इस्लाम नॉन इस्लामिक स्पेस पे आता है, तो उसके लिए सबसे बड़ा जो मुद्दा होता है वो ये होता है कि इसको परिचित जगह बनाए, और उस परिचित जगह बनाने की प्रक्रिया में जगह का एक किस्म का इस्लामाइजेशन होता है। हाँ, तो यहाँ का जो संरचना है, यहाँ की जो स्थापत्य कला है, उसके द्वारा वो उसको फेमिलियर स्पेस बनाता है। तो कुतुब मीनार, कुब्बतुल इस्लाम और इस तरह के जो अन्य उदाहरण हैं, उनके जरिए एक ऐसा दृश्य पैदा किया जा रहा था जिससे वो एक फेमिलियर प्लेस बने, और साथ ही साथ वो उसका जो विजुअल जो प्रेजेंस है उसको बहुत स्ट्रांगली कम्युनिकेट करना चाहते थे। दे वांटेड टू कम्युनिकेट द विजुअल प्रेजेंस of Islam to far off places. Is it clear?
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Uh-huh.
Yes, sir.
So this is one thing. See, I am. These are not my own interpretations. These are basically result of text which I have been referring to. So any views or any ideas which I am presenting here is actually subject to contestation. You can always bring that into critical light. There is no problem. So this is what had been happening in Delhi. The everything is now changing. The name of the places, for example, when new group of people came from a different region altogether, so to so it was not just that they were busy uh, making Delhi familiar place alongside Islamic line. They were also trying to uh, bring about changes which were practically very important. So, for example, uh, repair of water bodies which had fallen into disuse, because water had always been very important matter. It has always remained a very serious matter as far as Delhi region is concerned. So most of them, be it starting all the way from Qutbuddin Aibak. For Qutbuddin Aibak, we do not have a proper account as far as the water bodies construction and repair is concerned. But from Iltutmish onwards, Iltutmish, Alauddin Khilji, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, most of the rulers who came later on, most of them they paid adequate attention to the water supply. So besides development of Delhi alongside Islamic symbols, Islamic names, and Islamic pattern, uh, people from that region also paid attention to things which were necessary and important for everyday life. So, like paying attention to water bodies. So, you would notice that in this part of Delhi, that is the Mehrauli, because Mehrauli was the region which was more or less preset. Preset means it had basic structures uh, to support the inhabitants. So instead of going over to new place, what the new group of people did actually, they reformed this very place. They started transforming this very place. So there was a kind of reconfiguration. So they were trying to rework these very places. So it's not that when Qutbuddin Aibak came, he chose some other place. He chose this very place which he had actually come across, where people were living and where basic structures like forts, water bodies, and temples and several other structures were there. So it was practical and feasible, reasonable for them to uh, start from here. If they had chosen a place within Delhi which was completely uninhabited or which was completely forested, that would have actually, that would have been very insurmountable challenge, especially when Islam was still in its initial phase. So instead of going over to other place and starting all over from fresh, they chose this very place, which gave them uh, a space of time and some sort of comfort, especially in the direction of establishment and consolidation of the Islamic rule within India. So that is why these very place like Mehrauli became, uh, it led to the formation of new layer uh, in and through the pre-existing layer, which was a pre-Islamic. So there is a lot of reworking. So they are using this material and they are building, and then new landscape, एक नया भूदृश्य उभर कर सामने आ रहा है. और especially from Iltutmish times, you would realize that he did not only add a new block to the Qutub Minar, he went on to uh, he went on to start a new water body altogether to cater to the water needs of inhabitants who had settled down in these very place which I am talking about. Because Anangtal, which I had referred to, that I mean, it is said that that had dried, and there was a constant need for water, especially for this part of Delhi, which physically and geographically was further, from the Yamuna. So if you take a look at Delhi's map, this Delhi, that is, Mehrauli, South Delhi, which I am talking about, uh, it is far away from Yamuna River. I mean, compared to those places which are very adjacent to Yamuna, like Purana Kila, Indraprasth, and New Delhi. Especially New Delhi, when I'm saying the campus, Delhi University, uh, that where Delhi Meerut pillar is located, and Firoz Shah Kotla, where that other pillar, the pillar brought from Ambala is located. So these places were closer to Yamuna, and being closer to Yamuna, they did not have serious problem concerning water supply. But this place which I'm talking about, where most of the people had settled, these were water deficient area. But since this place was pre-established, and this place, even though water deficient, was better from safety point of view, because of being very harsh, very inhospitable, and because of being located on a rocky, rocky surfaces. Because this is these places which I'm talking about, these are basically uh, falling alongside or falling on the rocky ridge, Aravalli ranges. So these are very stony. These are very rocky, very stony, and side by side, it had its own, kind of flora and fauna. Uh, by and large, this place, uh, the very inhospitable nature of this place, although it was inhabited, the very inhospitable nature of this place had granted safety and security to people who were actually living in through these places. So it is a kind of paradox. How come a place which is which is not worth inhabiting, especially in the light of the fact that there is a water deficiency throughout the year? Why did people choose this place? So it was because of this, rocky structure, and also because the fort which had been built in and around this area was built because of the availability of stone in abundance. So because of this rocky structure, the stone was available in abundance, so they did not have to go very far. So forts developed because of the proximity of the fort to the these rocky structures. So the stones were available easily; they were handy. So and this was realized. So initially, when Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, and subsequent rulers, when they settled down here, they also acknowledged the importance of this place from security point of view, because these was the place where from they could have also remained aware of what was going on in the northwest and in other places. If they had moved further away from there, it would have resulted in lack of surveillance, which was not possible from far off places. So that is why, from safety point of view and also from a vigilance point of view, because they were keeping vigilance on sorts of developments which were very likely to happen on northwestern front. So initially they did not move further away from this until later. Is it clear to everyone? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. So that is why, from Iltutmish time onwards, you would notice that Iltutmish had undertaken to excavate a water body, which came to be known as Hauz-e-Shamsi or Hauz-e-Sultani. Hauz basically in their in the parlance of Persia, Persian, or in their language, that actually refers to the water body. So, for example, it was much later on during Alauddin Khilji, who actually had started, another water body. It's called Hauz Khas. Have you heard of the Hauz Khas? Anyone who is a part of Delhi, they must be familiar with the Hauz Khas. So these were actually named
Yes.
after. So these were named after
So
the water body.
what is a Holocaust, sir? Please repeat it
Hauz
on define about it, please.
See, Hauz Khas, Hauz Khas is basically a water body, uh, which artificial water body, which was created by Alauddin Khilji for people, for his own people, and for inhabitants living in most of these areas. But before Hauj Khas, Hauj a Shamsi, which had been created by Iltutmish, because that alone could not meet the water need of the people. Hmm. So water which would collect in Hauz a Sultani would not be sufficient to meet the water needs of the inhabitants living in and around that neighborhood. That is why Hauz Khas, which is compared to Hauz e Sultani, is larger. It is larger and it collected more water. Although some of the historians, they are of view that neither these nor the previous Hauz e Sultani were sufficient to meet the water need of people, because the number of people who inhabited this area, it was disproportionate, especially in terms of the availability of the water. So it was not possible for these existing water bodies, which were artificial, to meet the water needs of these people. So water remained a constant concern. So that is why, and another problem which was there for this part of Delhi, was the threat of the Mayos, who would very often because it was not that water was right there, beside their houses. People had to travel down to the water bodies. So, for example, Hauj e Sultani and Hauj Khas, people would actually come from their neighborhood. It's not that it was right beside there. So they would come down to these water bodies to fetch water for themselves. So these water bodies were not safe. Uh, because the Mayo people, they would very often raid and they would harass the people who would come down to fetch water. So that was another concern. And sometime these Mayos and other people, raiders, they would actually block the water streams which used to feed these water bodies. So the catchment areas uh, would be blocked, especially the water streams, where from the water would actually flow down to get collected into these water bodies. So sometimes that would be blocked. Another problem was that over a long period of time, these water bodies would actually this would actually get silted up. So because of the siltation, because of the flow of the debris which would flow alongside the water and store at the base of these water bodies, so it was slowly silting up. So water, uh, the depth would actually be compromised because of this siltation process, and there would be less space for the water. So the water shortage, water crisis continued troubling sultans and the people of this Delhi which I am talking about. And this Delhi which I am talking about is Delhi which came to be known as Delhi-e Kohna. That is a old Delhi. Is it clear?
Yes,
But,
sir.
Yes.
Yes.
but do not compare this old Delhi with the Purani Delhi, today's Delhi. This old Delhi which I am talking about, it's basically this Mehrauli region. This Mehrauli region, because this was the first habitation which Qutbuddin Aibak and other Islamic followers had established. So this is in true sense Delhi-e Kohna, old Delhi. So because of the water problem, because of the siltation, because of the threat, and so this was slowly becoming exhausted, and also because of the increase in population. So I will talk about the shift which resulted from all these changes. So how do we discuss shifts which resulted from all this development? In my next lecture, maybe on Monday, I will tell you that most of these things which I am discussing now, these were soon going to impact the decision of people and decision of the sultans to relocate or to start new neighborhood that would soon become known as the Delhi A now. Delhi means Shahar e now, New Delhi, new city. But I will engage you all for this aspect in another lecture. So for today's lecture, just bear in mind that when the Islamic people came for the first time in Delhi, when they thought of transforming this place from being Darul Hurb to Darul Islam, there were certain requirements on their parts. And so in the first place, they wanted to make this place familiar, which would appeal to their visual needs, and which would actually look familiar to them, so that they feel at home. And once they feel at home, they can think of taking deeper root. They can think of consolidating it, and and that could have been achieved by making more structures of grander nature and more complex nature. So in the first place, they adhere to simplicity. They adhere to just getting their foothold set on new places. and then making this place familiar. So there was a change in the landscape. So besides adhering to symbolic requirements, symbolic change in the landscapes which would appeal to their visual aesthetics, they also embarked upon practical considerations. So, for example, making of water bodies and repairing of the water bodies and repairing of the forts and renovation of the demolished structures, and then several other measures alongside the practical considerations started taking place side by side. The symbolic changes which were necessary to make Delhi look familiar to them, which would not be very different from place where they had all come from. So they just wanted to bring this on equal footing with the Central Asian landscape where they had all come from. Is it clear? Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh. So I mean,
Was Delhi Pune the capital of sultans?
say again.
Sir, was Delhi Kuna the capital of sultans?
Yes, yes. Actually, this was their initial and fundamental base. When they came, actually, Delhi did not become their first choice, because if you compare, if you look at the geography from northwest to Delhi, Lahore is a place which actually sits somewhere between the northwest frontier and Delhi. So Lahore was a place which was more ideal, because that was something. I mean, if you consider Delhi as one point and then northwest as another point, so Lahore being at the center commanded a central place. But problem was that uh, it was not that people who were followers of Islam were actually unified. I mean, later on I would discuss that we tend to make one common mistake, that we put place all of them under one umbrella. They were competing among themselves. Hmm. So Islam is no doubt one major category which is keeping them united, but in this united form, they are competing among themselves. So the politics which looks subservient to religion, it actually takes over religion. So ultimately, it is politics which becomes instrumental. So those who follow Islam are so power hungry that they start fighting among themselves without compromising their stand on Islam. So they all remain Islamic, but they fight among themselves. So those uh, who were part of the first generation, as far as the Indian territory is concerned. So when they had come, they had chosen Lahore, but Lahore granted them central location, but it did not grant them safety, because being close to northwest, they were exposed to imminent threat, which would very often keep coming from that direction. So they thought of shifting further away from the Lahore eastward, and Delhi became that spot which granted them suitable location. And within Delhi, Delhi Kohana, that is Mehrauli region, it became the base. Is it clear, Malati? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
So to begin with, they chose this place, and this became the base. So always remember, until Iltutmish, Lahore was actually place which was more or less more important. From Iltutmish times onward, Delhi actually becomes a place where they decide that they will rule from here. So what they did actually, uh, they this Lal Kot Fort, which I am talking about, and that Mehrauli complex where Qutub Minar is located, they started reworking all these places. So they took over those places and they transformed these places and made it suitable for themselves. So there was a new series of habitation which started taking place in and around these areas. So if you ever get opportunity to visit neighborhood which is very close to Qutub Minar, and if you also refer to historical sources, you will realize that people who have been living here, especially there is a uh, sabji mandi which is located in Mehrauli. Uh, that sabji mandi is as old as the medieval period. I mean, it is from the time of Sultanate, and that sabji mandi still operates. And and that place where it sits upon, uh, I mean, if you go during daytime, you will see that old remnants, of the buildings are still there. So this was the place which was becoming marketplace, which of its kind, which was becoming place to live, and which was also a place to rule from, and which was also a place which was surrounded by several challenges. So water problem was one among them, and being close to a rock and the rocky structures, it had a relative advantage of remaining secure, especially from the fort point of view. Other than that, it started developing some sorts of contradictions, which was soon going to have serious repercussion for this place and people living in and around this place. So pressure was building up. Pressure was building up, and so as far as the threat is concerned, we will talk about internal threat and the external threat. Internal threat uh, wise, there was a increase in the number of people, and so they were bound to outspread. They could not have remained confined to a boundary. So they were very likely to surpass that boundary and spread further. So that was one thing which I will discuss maybe other time. And then a threat from the Mayo raiders who would harass the women, who would harass the water fetcher, and who would harass the people. So people would always remain vigilant and always remain, conscious and terrified. I mean, this is how they terrified they were from the Mayo raiders. So that was immediate internal challenge. Other was uh, siltation process. Siltation process and procurement of the water on a regular basis was one thing which throughout remained a constant challenge. So and that is why we see a great degree of efforts devoted towards the building of water bodies, repair of the water bodies, and so it's not just they were preoccupied with the fortification. They were also concerned with the everyday needs of the people and themselves. So these are few things for today's class. This was just to warm up so that uh, how is Delhi now becoming, because in the process of making, Delhi is now assuming a new color. Ah, so that would become evident from the very names of the places. So for example, Delhi e Kuhna, Shahar e Nao, Kilo Khari, Ghiasuddin, Ghiaspur, Tughlaqabad. I mean, these are the names, which we start hearing during this period. So the names also mean a lot because these names and the origins of these names, when you try to, analyze how is all this coming, then you understand that any place cannot remain untouched, especially with the impact people leave on that space. So you have to identify the identity of people, and then you have to see whether that identity is actually also leaving impact on the identity of the space. So the spatial identity and the identity of people, these cannot remain unrelated. There is a great degree of correlation. So the way the people are, the place also becomes likewise. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. So I think you may have some other lecture to attend. So I will just let you go. I will hopefully see you tomorrow when Abhinav and Malati they are very likely to make presentations. Hmm. Yeah, just a minute. So I will just stop the recording.